Right. Okay. Let's get serious. Game face.
This is the first time I've ever technology in this room. So there. We do have standing for minimum. So when you want to speak, make sure it's green.
That doesn't turn off.
Does it turn on? There's a power button on the back. Try pressing that and see if it turns on.
That worked.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so I think we're ready. You want to call us to order?
Welcome to the, what is today?
October 23rd.
23rd October installment of UIDRB. I would like to swear you in if I may. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Stephanie Kensler, Planning Division.
Would you like to call the roll?
Sure thing. We do not have Mr. Fleming. Ms. Gunzelman,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Reeds,
Yes.
Mr. Sublett,
Yes.
Mr. Smansky.
Yes.
And Mr. Mather.
Yes.
We do have a quorum. We do, under public forum, we do have a zone in update. I know they're doing an event in the garage right now, so they're not here yet. If we want to go ahead and jump to try to tackle some of these minutes, and then
Yeah.
whenever they get here, we can just circle
And
back.
would you refresh our memory on the months, please?
Yes, and we will need to take action on them one at a time. So the first one is May 2025.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
That was a motion by Mr. Reeds, seconded by Mr. Samansky. 1 second. Ms. Gunzelman,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
So I wasn't there,
so you can abstain.
I'm abstaining, or I could sustain again.
Mr. Reeds,
Yes.
Mr. Sublett,
Yes.
Mr. Samansky,
Yes.
Mr. Mather.
Yes.
Motion carries. Yay, thank you. Next one is July 2025.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
That was a motion by Mr. Reeds, seconded by Ms. Gunzelman. Ms. Gunzelman,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Reeds.
Yes.
Mr. Sublett,
Yes.
Mr. Smansky, and Mr. Mather.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next is August 2025.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right.
Who was the second? Okay.
Yeah.
That was a motion by Mr. Reeds, seconded by Mr. Mather. Ms. Gunzelman,
Abstain.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Reeds.
Yes.
Mr. Sublett,
Yes.
Mr. Smansky,
Yes.
Mr. Mather.
Yes.
Motion carries. And then let's do this last set of minutes and we'll turn it over to Lewis. September 2025.
Motion.
Second.
That was a motion by Mr. Reeds, seconded by Mr. Smansky.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Gunzelman,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Abstain.
Mr. Reeds, Mr. Sublett,
Abstain.
Mr. Samansky,
Yes.
and Mr. Mather.
Yes.
Motion carries. Yay, thank you. We have
I think we have a
clear
clean
we have-
slate now, do we not?
the minutes from the agenda. Thank you.
Fabulous.
All right.
Do you have access to
Do I have access to OneDrive? I have access to the V drive.
Sorry, I haven't been using PowerPoints, but I had a long meeting with EFRB last night, so just to avoid any
That's the-
questions, I thought maybe I could pull up a PowerPoint.
Let me see.
You're gonna log in with.
Yeah. It's fine. I got you. Am I going to be able to access it or do you need to log
You
in?
could be.
Here, you do it.
Okay, sorry about this. I apologize.
Okay.
Fine.
Oh, boy. Yes, I can do this.
Oh, no, that's a hard. Especially now that they have the suggested passwords.
That's a miracle. Okay,
Great job.
thank you. It's a lot of pressure with everybody watching me.
You're live on YouTube.
Oh, that's great. Oh, there we go. That's fun. Well, then we'll just have to, I can just pull up a couple things here. I'll just do this real quick. And maybe we can do that. We'll do this. I just want to pull up a map, just that will help. Can you make that full screen if you can?
Maybe.
So thank you for having me here today. I just wanted to give an update on Zone In. Zone In is the city's, it's our initiative to comprehensively update the city's zoning code. Our zoning code is over 70 years old. It has been updated in bits and pieces here and there, but comprehensively it has not been. That's a very, very, very long time for a city to have a zoning code of that age.
Best I can
And
do.
what's that?
This is the best I can do.
That's fine. That's perfect. So phase one, were you involved at all with phase one to some degree? Okay. If you look at everything on the map there in blue, that dark blue, that's phase one. This is an older map. This is what we have right now. This is phase, so the dark blue is phase one. Phase one was completed in 2024, and it put density on the corridors. What we're doing now, and that was all about creating accessible access to housing. We wanted to create more housing, right? Access to housing on the corridors. And that resulted in 6 zoning districts. If you want to go to the Zone-In website, that wouldn't be
I
bad.
got you.
Yeah. And that created 6 zoning districts that were all mixed-use zoning districts. Those 6 mixed-use zoning, if you go to adopted code and map, right there. Oh, no, there you go. You're there. Yeah. So if those, yeah, view the phase one map. That's perfect. So those 6 zoning districts were all mixed use. And the reason that we did mixed use in these areas, you can see that there, is because we had a policy foundation to do mixed use on those areas. Right now, the city has, does anybody know how many area plans the city has?
How many what?
Area plans?
25.
More,
35.
more. About 40 area plans. And that all comes from our 1993 comprehensive plan. It said, work with the communities to create different area plans. That has its benefits in the fact that you are hyper-focused on one community. You're working with this one community to create an area plan. The negative is it takes a really long time to do that. And so our 40 area plans range from, the earliest is from 1994. That's the oldest, 1994. And the most recent is from 2018, which is an inequitable way of doing land use planning in a city of our size. That means some people have area plans that are very, very advanced. They have design guidelines. They have, they talk about compatibility, architectural styles. They have the newest land use ideas. Other ones are using planning ideas from 1994 or 1998 or 1999. And a lot has changed about the way we think our cities grow, right? We support a lot more mixed use than we used to in the city. We don't want to have just Euclidean zoning districts like we have in our current zoning code. So phase 2 is called economic and housing opportunity. And what we are doing is we are trying to create more housing, just like we did in phase 1, but we want to update our zoning code with regards to our job-focused zoning districts. So manufacturing, office, commercial, institutional. How do we update that zoning code as well? It's not just about creating additional housing, but how do we make the zoning code for the modern economy so it can create meaningful jobs in the community? And when we create those jobs in the community, how do we make sure that they're designed in a way that fits with our modern values for the community? So we took everything that was manufacturing, industrial. So for example, like our zoning code right now, it deals with manufacturing, it deals with basket weaving, and it deals with hamper production. Very noble professions, right? But it doesn't really deal very well with data centers or distribution centers, the things that are getting built like crazy right now around the city. So how can we create a zoning code that addresses those things and creates controls and district standards that are what reflect the city's values right now? And so, don't show that yet. Okay, that's good. So what we're doing is economic and housing opportunity. We created a map that covers, so phase 1 was a big success, but it covered only 4.5% of the city, which means we still have 95.5% of the city left to go. So we have a lot left to do.
Mhm.
And as we started looking out, we thought about focusing next on economic and housing opportunity. And we got those zoning districts. We got manufacturing, office, commercial. We put them in three big buckets. We put them in, the first bucket was mixed use. The second bucket was industrial and warehouse. And the third bucket was business and institutional campus. And if you go to the zoning website real quick and you click on view the proposed policy map, is this it?
Mhm.
There is, and you zoom in. This is the land use plan that we have. Throughout the summer, we've been engaging the community on this map, this land use map. And we were looking for two things, the uses that they supported and the intensities that they supported. And based off of their input, we have created this map. And what I'm here to let you know is we're right now engaging in a public comment period, our second public comment period on this policy map. And it is going to be lasting through November 13th, I believe. Oof. November 9th. I'm sorry. I think it's November 9th. Apologize for that. And we're doing pop-up events. We're doing open houses. And yeah, ends on November 9th. We're doing pop-up events, open houses. We have an open house here starting at 5 o'clock in the parking garage if you'd like to come by, where we're trying to engage the community and get their feedback. This isn't zoning, this is policy basis. All right, we have to create the policy to do the zoning code. So right now, these are all land use categories, policy basis, zoning code. And this will help lead to the zoning code. So right now we have policy on mixed use, business and institutional campus, and industrial and warehouse. If that is adopted by council, we're going for adoption by council in December. We can then use that to create our zoning districts. So mixed use 3, are any of you familiar with the phase 1 zoning districts to some degree?
Mhm.
So for example, community activity center or regional activity center, right? Okay. This land use map right now has areas that are designated as mixed use 2. It's just broad, just one category. But in there, we can put multiple zoning districts depending on what area of the city. So your community activity center is mixed use 2. Your regional activity center is mixed use 3, right? So urban core is mixed use 3. So we start very broad with just like that blue map I showed. We started with the community, just one color map. This is what's in this phase. This is what's out. Then we went down to a 3-color map. Those 3 buckets I talked about, we got their feedback. Now we have a 5-color map, 3 mixed use districts, and then industrial warehouse, business, and institutional campus. What we're going to do then is after this is adopted, hopefully this is adopted by council in December, then we're going to go look at that map and we're going to create districts. And then it's going to become even more refined. So it goes from very broad to very refined. Policy first, community engagement on big ideas of how we want a city to see the city grow, and then districts, zoning districts. So right now we have a public comment period on the policy map. And once that gets adopted by council, we can start focusing on the zoning district specifically. We've been taking a lot of the community input into account. Certain things came off of the University Area Review Board map. We got feedback that, west of King and High, they didn't want to see as much mixed use, so we took that off the map. We've made significant changes based off community input, and we're really looking for community input. And we had a survey over the summer that had 3,100 responses. We've had over 2,500 interactions where we've talked to people about these things at multiple pop-up events. And our support based off the survey is between 65 and 75%, which is pretty good support. So I just wanted to encourage you to go to our website, encourage your, are they they're not your constituents, are they the people you represent?
Neighbors.
Your neighbors to fill out, thank you, yeah, to fill out the survey,
You can
to
come
provide feedback.
It's like-
And to let you know, we have that public comment period that we encourage you to come to the open house today when you're leaving in the parking garage, depending how late Stephanie keeps you. And you'll see that we're looking for feedback on the map and other things that we have. So that's a lot. There's a lot going on. The main thing is we're setting the policy basis for zoning, and it's in phases. So right now we're doing phase 2 policy, do phase 2 zoning, and then in 2026, we'll do phase 3 policy, phase 3 zoning.
Can you share with them what the timeline is for the phase 2 zoning? You told them about the policy, but what's the timeline for the zoning?
Yes, so we're going for the policy in December, and then we will begin engaging the community all over again on the exact zoning districts starting in 2026. And we hope to go to council for adoption of zoning districts around July of 2026. And then we will flip the switch and start engaging with the community on phase 3, which will be more of your residential neighborhoods, right? We've been focusing on more intense things right now. And then we will do policy basis for phase 3. And at that point, when we're done with phase 3 policy, for the first time ever, we've never had before, we will have one citywide land use map. So like I was saying, the benefits of a small one is that it's, you can really talk to the community on very detailed things. The benefit of having a big map is for the first time ever, you'll be able to look at one map of the city that has a reasonable number of land use categories. We're hoping to have like under 15 land use categories. Right now we have 200. So that just goes to some of this confusion that's going on. We hope to have 15 land use categories. And for the first time, you'll be able to look at a map and say, this is where the city is prioritizing industrial development. This is where the city is prioritizing mixed use development. This is where the city is prioritizing office. And we think that this is a much more effective way of doing planning. It's pretty much a best practice on other cities that we look at in the country. And we think that it can help us guide capital investment, capital improvements. When CODA is looking at, bus lines, they can see where the city is forecasting its most intense development. When DPU or DPS, when they're looking at sewer infrastructure, or they're looking at where do we need to invest in infrastructure to support industrial, there'll be one map that's not super, you don't have to look at 40 maps to figure out where these things should go. So it's got that larger benefit that we think outweighs what we have right now. And then finally, this map won't be something that gets made in 1993 and then put on a shelf. We hope to revisit it and its associated policy text, hopefully annually. I don't want to promise on that. And we are thinking, we're kicking around the idea of doing land use map amendments that would go with rezonings so that the map always stays up to date. And so policy isn't just the map, it's also a document. It's a document that will be used when we're reviewing variances and rezonings.
Finish it now.
Sure, it complicates things, but this is the Columbus Growth Strategy. This is the document part about it. This is kind of setting the land use policy basis. Remember, policy isn't the rules, it's just general regulations. It'll say things like open space should, or development should front on open space, right? Or it might say new developments should connect into the existing infrastructure, right? These are all shoulds because we're reviewing it. This is part of the negotiated process. When
Like the
something's
current university plan
correct
guidelines.
guidelines. The districts will say, if it's R1 or whatever it's going to be, then you're fronting on open space with a setback of 5 feet, and you have to have the design of the building has to have 3 different tiers with different components. It gets much more detailed, right? So just like you have your policy document right now, the university design guidelines, right? It's just
Can I ask a
policy.
question?
Yeah.
Is that going to be as granular? Like I know when you, especially looking at like the mixed use corridors and even on the university district plan, it was looking at parcel by parcel and they were, carved in and out, and it was, these are specifically. And so like when we're reviewing plans and it's on High Street and they're allowed 12 stories by right, it's kind of, hey, that's the plan.
Mhm.
With this more broader brush in terms of all those, and I'm kind of asking this question both from a board member and as a developer, it's like, hey, there's always those weird parcels within this big swath that you're like, hey, in that big swath, it makes sense. But in this other, when you really get down to the granular, it makes more sense for it to be something else, or it can make sense. And so how's the city's view on that? Because I think the ultimate goal when we first were talked about this on the first phase was it seemed like every zoning case or every case had variances and rezoning
Oh, yeah.
needed. And the idea was to reduce the amount of
Exactly.
that.
That's what we're trying to do. Yeah.
But I mean, but there's still kind of that view is that, hey, we can't look exactly parcel by parcel on every thing, so that there still is an expectation of variances and some rezonings
Yeah.
needed
It's-
within these.
Yeah. Planning isn't a science, right? But we did look at every parcel in the city.
Okay.
We looked at every parcel in the city. We started in January and we finished in May looking at maps. Before we had our final map, we looked at every parcel in the city and we said, what does that want to be? Does that want to be mixed use? We also have we work with our consultants. We had a firm called Vista Site Selection that does criteria-based analysis to figure out what is most suitable, like what makes a suitable industrial site. We did our own criteria. We did a scaled weighted criteria on our end as well before we met with Vista Site Selection to create a heat map where we were like, okay, industrial should be close to the interstate, things like that. And that helped inform it, but we still looked at every parcel. So there's always going to be variances and rezonings. They're not going to go away. But the idea is, I came from the city of St. Petersburg previously. They had a zoning code that was created in 2007. If you had a variance or rezoning, you had to prove a hardship. Like, why do you need this variance or rezoning? The variance and rezonings that we have right now in the city are, you need this variance and rezoning because our zoning code is broken, right? It's not the way to do it, right? So the idea is that right now we're engaging with the community. We're trying to figure out what uses does the community support in what areas. And then we will apply zoning districts that we think are the most modern standards that reflect what the development community wants, what the community wants, right? And then if for some reason you have a circumstance that just doesn't allow you in this, then you file for your variance and rezoning. But the variance and the rezoning should be the exception and not the rule. And right now they're the rule. And, when I came to Columbus, I was like, why are we supporting all these variances? And they're like, well, because we have to. That's what we're doing. And it's because the zoning code is so broken. So what we're trying to do is make that the exception. Now, in terms of flexibility, the land use policy, like I said, it's big buckets. And that allows you to jump between one zoning district and another. So say, for example, we assign a site as mixed use 1. Mixed use 1 right now has 2 zoning districts. It has UGN, Urban General 1, Urban General 2, and we're probably going to create a more low-slung mixed use district that is probably a 3-story height, while Urban General can go to 4 stories, right? And so if you have a parcel that is maybe that 3-story and you want to be Urban General, you're still in that same land use category. And so we can say we support it or we don't, but at least you can jump around between those zoning districts. Right now, we didn't split up the industrial. We just have industrial. And then in there, we might have an urban industrial, we might have a suburban industrial, we might have a heavy or a light. We're still working on these things. But then later on, if someone wants to go from one to the other, they're in that category and we can support it. Now, if someone wants to go from mixed use to industrial, then we're like, wait a minute here, that you're going to have to update the land use map to make that jump, because on the map, it's going to have to change from mixed use to industrial, right? And so there's still variances and rezonings, but it's not just this kind of hodgepodge where we have now, we're always reactionary and people are saying, okay, we want this site to be industrial, or this was industrial, we want it to be a residential. What do you guys think? And then we have to look at it and say, okay, well, maybe, but we want to see these kinds of development standards. So policy is kind of these big buckets that allows you to kind of jump around between them into the different zoning districts. But if you want to go from one to the other, then you'll still have to do a variance or rezoning to go between those two, or rezoning at least. But if you want to go from one to the other, then you're changing land use categories, and that's when you might need to have a map amendment. And that's a bigger indication that something bigger is happening here.
In terms of solving some of the confusion, which you've witnessed in the university area, those concerned with more residential or the 3-story sort of districts should know that that will ultimately be carved out of what is on the map now mixed use, correct?
I'm sorry, I don't follow. What are you saying?
You know, as your general policy,
Mhm.
all right, those districts that are naturally urban residential, 3-story, whatever,
Urban general.
those are currently on the map under the mixed use category
Yes.
and will be formed as those districts are carved up at, you know.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
I think I
that-
understand you. So
That's
like,
something that residents need to understand.
yes. We've been going to the area commissions. We've been trying to, as much as possible we can. I think, and I know that was a question, because that's the thing, like you just see mixed use 1 there on the map. Well, initially it was just mixed use.
Right.
And people were like, well, what the heck does that mean, right? And so we're like, well, and that's why we said, well, we asked them 2 questions. What is the appropriate use and what is the intensity? And the first intensity was up to 4 stories. The next one was up to 7, and the next one was 8 and plus. And we took their feedback, and that mixed use 1 is up to 4 stories. Mixed use 2 is up to 7. Mixed use 3 is 8 plus. We don't have a zoning district except for downtown that is above 16 stories, right? In any of those mixed use 3s. But yes, you're correct. And we're going to have to keep having these ongoing conversations. That's why we're going to re-engage the community in 2026, that everything that you see there in pink and mixed use 1, it's not all just one zoning category district. There will be areas that are UGN 1, which are 4 stories and much more urban. There might be, I don't know, like we might talk about, what's the name? Would it be like an emerging mixed use or something that is 3 stories? Or then we can also talk about housing types or building types. So perhaps on some of our more dense corridors, you could allow more of an intense, UGN kind of 4-story mixed use, 3/1 kind of structure. Whereas maybe on like a King Avenue or something, we say there has to be housing building types. And that helps protect the housing that we have there. Because what we really want to do in a lot of these corridors, and it's trying to talk to the community about this, is a lot of what we're trying to do is creating more of an emerging mixed use that would allow maybe a house to have an ice cream shop on the first floor, or maybe like a very small, like a single chair barbershop, right? Something that's more organic that you used to see in the older city, where the residential would slowly allow for some commercial, right? Or like an accessory commercial building out front. The problem is those could look ugly. So that's why we're going to have design standards to make sure that if anything gets built like that, that it looks good. But so a lot of what we're talking about here is just allowing more flexibility to create more walkability, to allow people to kind of have a business in their house if it's under certain circumstances and design guidelines and small square footage. Can we allow that to happen, to allow more small scale retail in the community in certain areas?
Most of the confusion that I say could be resolved by a greater understanding that it is a work in process.
Yeah.
And some sense of, as you gave at the beginning here, of when those, of some more specific dates of how that is resolved. Because when people go now, the confusion right now is, oh my gosh, this is the way it is. This is done. This is,
Yeah.
So I think that one of the messages to get to the community is it's being worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it's very highly technical, confusing things, right? I mean, you're all in development community, and when we start talking about, well, there's policy and there's zoning, and then the policy lays the foundation, but there's these big buckets. It's confusing. I mean, when I took over this role, it was like, well, good Lord, what's going on here? Like, it's very complicated. And it's more complicated by the fact that in phase 1, they didn't have to do the policy work. They already had policy in those 40 area plans that said densify the corridors. That's what they did, because it was the easier way to do it than do the policy. And so now we have to set the policy so it's policy zoning. It's difficult, but and we've been telling the community, we are taking community feedback into account. You guys seem to be kind of surprised when we actually took some things off the map
We
but-
believe that you're listening.
Yeah, that's right. But in phase 1, there's going to be much more community engagement and feedback in these phases moving forward than there was in phase one. People will see the zoning districts before we go to the 60-day public comment period, I think. You know, I can't say for certain, but people are seeing the policy beforehand. So it's difficult conversations, but yeah, that's what we're trying to make people understand, that we're looking at engagement and feedback and helping drive this. And it's not set in stone.
And when they see something on a map, they think, well, that's the way it is. That's the way it's going to be. And
Yeah.
it's a tough argument to make of, look, it's getting worked out.
Yeah.
People are cynical about that answer.
Yep. Anything else? I took a lot of your time. I'm sorry for the applicants. So, all good? Any questions?
The update.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Have a
Take
good
care.
day.
I am. Huge panic. Are we ready for COA 25-01-000?
With no
Uh,
explanation.
Yeah, I think
2004 North High Street?
yeah, I accidentally exited out the materials. Hold on. Sorry. Okay. All right. COA 25-0-1000 for 2004 North High Street. This is a request for action on exterior alterations for a new tenant space and the associated signage package. The project includes painting select brick on the west and south elevation red, painting select brick on the south elevation with the mural, a new 3-foot 5-inch by 8-foot 8-inch illuminated channel letter wall sign on the west elevation, which would be mounted to red metal sign cabinet, a new 2-foot by 1-foot 8 3/8-inch illuminated projecting sign on the west elevation, a new 6-foot 2-inch by 2-foot 5.5-inch illuminated channel letter wall sign on the south elevation, mounted to that new red metal sign cabinet panels that will wrap the corner at the west elevation. And then also a new 3-foot 2-inch by 3-foot 11.5-inch illuminated acrylic sign that will be routed into the backer panel on the south elevation, mounted to the red metal sign cabinet panels that wrap that corner. The submission includes renderings, elevation, and signage details. So we'll go through those. Here is the west elevation and the south elevation. This is that corner space. We did see an application for this a few months ago. So this is just an update to that. Here is showing more detail on that signage. There's a projecting sign here. You can see it better later in the package, but on the west elevation, wall sign and projecting sign. On the south elevation, it's 2 wall signs. Let's see. This just shows the dimensions, the height from grade of the different signage. And then here is the detail for those signs. This is the projecting sign. And then here are the signs on the south elevation. So with that, as stated, a similar proposal came before the board at the June 2025 hearing, at which time the board approved the application. A certificate of approval was issued and the applicant has completed a portion of the work, removing the previous tenant branding, changing the entrance to a single door, and removing the bump out in the storefront. The revised submission focuses on a change in color scheme and the signage and graphic details. If you recall, previously this was like a mint blue.
Yes.
So the University District Plan recommends pedestrian-oriented signage that is logical and complementary component of the overall design and does not exceed 2 signs per frontage per tenant. The proposal is consistent with these guidelines. The plan also includes recommendations on size and placement of signs. The proposal is somewhat consistent with these guidelines. The wall signs on the south elevation are not within the sign band and are larger than the plan recommends. Also, the projecting sign is less than 10 feet from grade. Staff does not oppose the size of the signs based on the overall scale of the building, and the applicant has advised that there are no code issues with the height from grade. Finally, the plan states that the installation of signage should be reversible and avoid permanent damage to the building. As such, staff encourages the applicant to use appropriate materials in painting the brick to avoid trapping any moisture and damaging the masonry. Staff recommends a conditional approval, with the condition being relocating the projecting sign to the metal sign band above the brick.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant present? Swear you in?
Sure.
Swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Do you have anything you'd like to add to the city's review?
No, staff did a great job. Yeah, we're excited. We changed the color from what is our current branding to something that's more neighborhood appropriate. So we felt the red kind of fit in with the community and the university, and we certainly want to be a good neighbor and good participant in the community.
Is the mural that we're talking about the Fuel Your Fun?
Yes.
Yes.
That is not a sign.
That's painted.
It's
And,
not considered a sign.
and we don't have to prove that because it's not any name or branding.
Correct. Mhm.
That's my only issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I know the downtown commission really controls tightly the amount of words on billboards, and they encourage much more graphic content. I think there are strict
Yeah, that's
guidelines for how much graphic versus text you can have, and I agree with that approach. Better to have some graphic than a bunch of words. So that's what gets me about this. The letters seem rather large and unadorned. Seems harsh. I like the rest of it.
agree.
We played with the size of the letters. The challenge is just trying to find a scale that, if you get too small, it's kind of out of balance. So we try to proportion it with, right, currently it's a brown,
Yeah.
relatively uninteresting wall.
And I guess I'm just not sure of the rules, like for Nike, if you put just do it for, if this was Nike, is that a mural then?
No, that would be, that's commercial copy. So Fuel Your Fun does not appear anywhere like on their website in
No,
their
we-
branding. Whereas Just Do It is very much Nike's branding. So that's what makes it a sign versus not a sign. So this would be considered just a mural on the wall. It's painted.
I mean,
More of an inspirational statement, for lack of a better description.
I think Daniel, what you're saying, I mean, is there any, it looks like just font verse.
Yeah.
It seems like, I don't mind the saying and that it could be more artistic, but I think you're also saying we have no say over it.
Yeah, I mean, we have to. It's not a sign. And I think it's sticky to talk about regulating content.
There's very little art to.
Indeed.
But I mean, that's my only issue with the whole.
The thing, I think you could talk to the applicant to see if they would be amenable to adding a more artistic element to it that's not branding, like not a strawberry, or something like that. But just painting, I would think if this were the only piece of this application, if there were no signage, no other changes to the building, I don't know that this would even come before you all, because just painting something on brick doesn't require a permit. And if it's not signage, we wouldn't see it. So you could maybe encourage them to, if you have suggestions about reducing the size of the font, but I don't think we can condition an approval on anything related to that.
Did you consider a mural of any type, like no verbiage, just a?
So we have a store up in Hamilton Quarter, it's kind of New Albany, Worthington, Columbus, that kind of gray area in the cities up there. And we went through a phase where we had a mural that was a little bit tied to the community. It said, great things happen in Hamilton Quarter. Not branded with anything, just something that tied it to the community. We've gone away from that. We can certainly, I've got a design meeting tomorrow on some other projects. I can certainly talk to our design team, say, can we keep Fuel Your Fun, but make it more fun? So,
And it just looks like it's printed. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes
Yeah.
it look like a sign and it'd be, if it's different.
yeah, I mean,
colored letters more
I'm not opposed at
decorative
all to
font.
having a conversation with our team on, let's, in concept, it's okay, but let's kind of make it more fun. I can send something to Steph and she can distribute it to you all. Just for feedback or I definitely, again, happy to make a move in that direction to, I address the concerns, because I understand, I hear you.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity for your business to give the community you're entering into a reason to love your business.
Yeah.
But it is a recommendation and not a condition.
Yeah, we would just be encouraging them to maybe do something
Yeah.
more artistic, but it would not be a condition of approval.
But, and I'll, tell you that we will make an effort to figure out a way to make it more fun.
So getting to the city's primary substantive comment is about the height of the projecting sign, right?
Yes, so this is similar to the one you all saw a few months ago that was like on the rear and it was below 8 feet. So,
For the pizza, right?
late
Late night slice.
no, not that one. It was the coffee place, the new coffee place, the Seven Brew. Thank you, words. But so the plan recommends 10 feet from grade. So that's why I have to call it out as inconsistent. They checked with code and
Code is 8.
and because it doesn't like exceed so far into the right of way, code didn't have an issue. So that's why I noted that in the staff report. And moving it up would just get it onto that more sign band and not on the brick. But that was really, the impetus for that was just the plan recommends 10 feet. So if you guys are fine with where it is, they don't need a variance for where it is as far as we're aware. So that was just calling out an inconsistency with the plan.
So once again, I mean, would that be a recommendation rather than a condition?
That one could be a condition, because you already,
We'll move it up to the sign band. That's no problem.
because like it's kind of hard to see, but the parking P that exists right now is up on the metal. But like I said, it's not a code problem. So if you're fine with it, we don't have to do a conditional approval, but,
But we'll move it up there. That's easy enough to do.
Yeah, less of a chance of somebody being drunk and smacking it or something.
Right.
so if you guys are good with everything else, then we would just need a motion for a conditional approval with the relocation of the projecting sign as the condition.
I'll make a motion to approve on the condition that the projecting sign moves up to the sign band.
I'll second.
That was a motion for conditional approval by Mr. Mather, seconded by Mr. Reeds. Ms. Gunzelman,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Reeds.
Yes.
Mr. Sublette.
Yes.
Mr. Samansky.
Yes.
And Mr. Mather.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
December 4th.
Oh,
Right now.
very good.
I like that you went with the red.
Sorry?
I think your color choice was more appropriate for campus, so.
Blue's got a
Right.
bad connotation. All right, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving to COA 250 1097, 94 East 13th Avenue.
This is also a request for action for exterior building alterations. This is a long list, bear with me. So the scope of work includes rebuilding existing dormers to meet current code requirements, removing a rear chimney, reconfiguring window and door openings on the rear elevation of the addition, removing existing aluminum trim near the roof line of the main structure and the porch, and replacing with pressure-treated trim painted to match James Hardy cobblestone. New black vinyl windows in existing openings, new black TimberTech aluminum porch railing, replace existing porch skirt with new pressure-treated skirting, painted to match the Hardy Monterey taupe. Replace existing front porch deck and framing with pressure-treated framing and composite decking. New recessed light fixture in the porch ceiling. Replacing the existing front door with a new half-light fiberglass door in iron gray color. New fiber cement trim on the rear addition, painted to match the Hardy cobblestone. New smooth fiber cement siding on the rear addition, painted to match Hardy Monterey taupe. New concrete steps and wood handrail on the rear. Replace existing rear door with new half-light fiberglass door in iron gray. Spot, roof, gutter, and tuck pointing repair as needed. Replace existing door with new door on west elevation. Demolish the existing garage. New concrete. You okay?
Yeah, sorry.
New concrete 12-foot by 18-foot concrete patio and sidewalk in the rear yard. And then new 8-space double-stacked asphalt parking pad. No variances have been identified at this time. The submission includes existing condition photos, site plan, floor plans, elevations, sections, and material specifications. So
Wow.
here we go. This is the existing site. This is the site plan. So you can see the new patio here, the sidewalk, and then here's that double stacked parking pad. And then here's the existing building and porch. Here is that patio again. Floor plans for the interior. And then here are the elevations where they just call out all that scope of work that I just rattled off. East elevation. This is the north elevation of note. You'll see in the existing condition photos, here is where that rear chimney is, and then rebuilding and expanding this dormer is why they're proposing to take that chimney down. West elevation, here's that door that's going to be replaced. Then we have sections of the porch detail. And we have our material specifications and the colors. Here's the hardy. And then we get into the existing condition photos. So it's a blonde brick building that has an addition. The configuration on the back is changing. They're omitting some windows. I believe we'll go back to the elevation. I believe this is going away. I think this might be becoming a double window, or this one is becoming a double window. This set of doors is going away. These windows are changing. The little roofs above the doors are going away. It's a better view of it. And then let's see if we can get to there's this strange band of siding that goes across the entire thing. I'm not exactly sure why. They may know if it was just an attempt to tie the addition into the main structure, but it goes all the way around the house. So that's one of the things that they are changing. You can see that they used it here and here. They wrapped the siding. This band here above the windows remains that wonky condition. You can see these Frankenstein dormers that exist now. The back is similar. I can see if we can spin this guy around here.
To the garage, right?
Yeah, did I go to the wrong street? There it is. Here's the garage. It does have a unit in there right now. So the applicant, I forget, they told me, I'm sure they can confirm like what I think it's a net loss of a bed or a unit total with this garage going away. And it's a little bit hard to see because of the garage and the telephone pole.
Garage.
Yes. Sorry. Go back to that rear elevation. You can see that chimney that's proposed to come down. This guy right here. This one. So with that, the University District Plan recommends preservation of potentially contributing structures and their character-defining features, as well as encourages the removal of inappropriate additions and alterations. The plan also recommends using materials to differentiate between new and original construction. The proposal is somewhat consistent with these guidelines, as the applicant is repairing the porch, replacing windows in their original masonry openings, and modifying inappropriate alterations to the dormers, porch railing, and trim elements. The applicant is also using fiber cement siding on the addition rather than brick. However, staff does note that the applicant is proposing to demolish the rear chimney and the existing garage, which may be contributing, as it does appear with the main house on the 1920 based real estate atlas. The plan also recommends 0.75 parking spaces per bed, which would equate to 4 parking spaces for this site. The inclusion of bicycle infrastructure and landscaping that enhances the structure and provides shade and other environmental benefits, as well as the inclusion of street trees. The proposal is inconsistent with these guidelines. As such, staff recommends a conditional approval with the following conditions. Number one, the applicant provide detailed photo documentation prior to demolition of the garage. Two, preserve the rear chimney. Three, reduce the number of parking spaces from 8 to 4. Or provide enhanced landscaping around the parking pad to offset any stormwater runoff. 4, add bicycle racks. And 5, add a street tree along East 13th Avenue in consultation with the city forester. And staff would recommend these conditions to be staff approvable. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please come on up.
You can both come up if you need to pull up another chair.
The more the merrier. Do you both swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Very much. Anything you'd like to add to the city's overview of the proposed modifications?
I think it was pretty comprehensive. To discuss the garage, I'm not sure when that was converted to an ADU, but it doesn't have appropriate foundations that go below frost depth and it's heaving in certain areas. And to try to salvage it and repair it is just not feasible. It made more sense just to demolish it. It is being leased right now. There's 1 bedroom and then a big loft space. So we'd have a net loss of 1 bedroom on the property. The existing house is 5 bedrooms. We're proposing to keep it 5 bedrooms. The layout is really wonky, which is why we're reconfiguring it. It wasn't leased this year, which is the main reason for all these renovations. The existing layout has some very, very large bedrooms and some very, very small bedrooms. So we managed to reconfigure the inside, add a couple bathrooms, make it more marketable for next year's lease season. I guess we'll go through it piece by piece. The front porch, there's some structural damage to the framing of the deck, which is why we're proposing to replace the framing and replace the decking with something more permanent and more durable. Trying to get rid of some of that aluminum siding that's thrown all over the place. The trim along the top of the roof, our best guess is that there was either pieces of trim there before or some kind of bracket that was taken down. And instead of repairing the brick below, they just threw up that siding to kind of put it up. We're proposing to put just wood trim up there to cover up whatever it's hiding and make it look a little bit more, a little nicer. We are keeping the 2 chimneys along the east side of the building, trying to keep that one very small chimney at the back completely destroys, it doesn't completely destroy. It really wrecks the plan that we're wanting to do. So that's why we're proposing to get rid of that one. I did talk to the owner about the conditions that planning was proposing, adding bicycle parking, additional landscaping, and they're open to that.
Would that take away from the parking spaces?
No, there's plenty of room in the backyard for those. So we can add a inverted U for bicycle parking and add a tree and some landscaping. That's definitely feasible.
You said that someone was currently staying in the garage?
Yes.
And when is their lease up?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Do you know when you're hoping this project will begin?
Hoping that it will start January, February, so it could be ready for next August lease season.
Steph, can you go to the front elevation again?
And then can you give your names? What are your names?
Bradley Blumenscheid. I'm the architect.
I'm Jade Nelson. I'm the draftsman.
Awesome, thank you.
So are the columns on the 2 opposing ends of the porch, are those 2s or are they 4s?
They're 3s.
Well,
Threes.
but there's only 2 and not.
There's 2 there and there should be 2 more. So. and
Oh,
2
there are
that
4.
way,
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rest of the porch structure is in great shape. It does need a little tuck pointing here and there, but otherwise we wanted to keep what we could.
So you're taking down the cladding between the pillars
Yes.
and infilling with new brick, is that correct?
No, it'll be vertical lattice work with aluminum railing.
And Bradley, what are the colors of like the shutters? You have black windows, right?
Mhm.
And what are the color of the shutters? Are they going to be black as well?
Go to the photo real quick. The front elevation.
Sorry, nobody throw up, please.
They're white now.
Those aren't shutters, are they? It's just
Oh,
really
they're
thick
trim
trim.
pieces.
Yeah, it's
I
trim
see
pieces.
What that is, okay.
Like a cream or something.
So will they be black? Are you gonna paint them black?
We can paint them to match the color of the windows.
I think it'd be more appropriate. We
Yeah.
wouldn't want black and white up there.
I had a similar question about the cladding on the top of the brick underneath the roof. What color will that be?
The trim pieces,
Yeah, the weird stuff.
that will be the
Cement board.
Yeah, it'll match the cement board trim that we're putting.
It'll be the hardy cobblestone is what I had for the trim.
You're asking on the color.
Yeah, what is cobblestone?
It's in here. Come on.
It's a material sheet.
Is it? Sorry.
It's
Oh,
like a tan. It's the bottom
further
right,
in,
bottom
there
right
is.
image. So in that image, it's the siding. Not confusing at all, but
this one. But it's this color. It's the
Correct.
one that's shown on the siding, but that will be the trim
right, but it
color.
would be the trim, yes.
So the conditions that are being proposed, it is the rear chimney that creates, that you have the biggest problem with, is that correct?
Yeah, trying to work around that chimney on all 3 levels was, we'll say difficult, which is why we're proposing to take that one down. Keeping the other 2 is fine, but that,
Steph's gonna throw something at me, but I don't have a problem with removing the back one because it's a box. I mean, it's not like it's a decorative element that's got special brickwork in it.
I
That's,
agree. I assume that it's not visible from the street.
it's not.
'Cause are they adding the dormer at the back?
There is a rear dormer there, but it's a small Franken dormer, kind of like,
And so it's
so
getting
the
enlarged.
new one will be
Yes.
larger.
Yes,
But there is a dormer there.
yes. Yeah, I'm thinking sometime maybe in the 90s is when they added that, we'll call it an egress window in those dormers, which gives it the Frankenstein look. But the clear head height doesn't meet current code, which is why we want to fix that.
There it is.
Yeah, Bradley and Jada also don't have any problem with removing the back chimney. I really like the concept of that porch really needs it. So the front porch, how you have that designed with the railing, I think will look really nice, as well as removing the thick band around the top. My biggest concern right now is this parking pad without seeing any of the projected like landscaping that we're thinking about doing, and the fact that there is a student currently there or somebody has a lease there is, I think, kind of a concern of mine to tear that garage down. Just,
The tenant rights, they can't kick them out if there's,
okay, so the,
I mean, I don't think that's not in our, like.
Yeah, I don't know what the terms of the lease are. I just, when I was there field measuring, there was someone living there.
Yeah.
That was like 2 months ago. I
Sure,
don't know if they're still living
sure,
there.
sure.
It's expired.
yeah, just the fact that it like is an option for, like it is a potential space that people can rent for housing. I think, for me, that would be my only thing is I would like to see what this parking situation could look like. If you were to tear down the garage, that would be my only concern right now.
I guess I'm not quite sure what you mean.
So you had mentioned that the owner was open to putting in landscaping, correct? Yes. But I guess we don't really know what they're willing to do, right? So I think that's kind of my hold off just on that aspect of it. Everything else I think is
And-
great.
Just to clarify, demolition is wonky because UIDRB doesn't have demolition control, so they could just tear it down. And that's part of the reason, like, we didn't ask for some of the things that we normally ask for, like,
Mhm.
you know, if it was a primary house, we'd ask for like a condition assessment. But we at least would like to get photos of it so that we have it for the record of the property. But as far as like telling them they can't tear it down,
Right,
they can, unfortunately.
right, right.
Um,
Okay.
I think when it comes to the parking specifically, the plan recommends a certain quantity of parking, which may be inconsistent with code. Like, they're not saying they need a variance, but that would be a guideline where you could say, like, I could support this additional parking here if the applicant's not willing to reduce the parking, but I would want to see enhanced landscaping around the
Mhm.
perimeter or something like that.
Mhm.
Would be something you could do as opposed to like the demolition of the garage.
That makes sense.
I guess I would just throw this out. I think to your points, right, is understanding what it means by additional landscaping.
Mhm.
And my personal opinion is I don't think 4 is the right number. There's 5 bedrooms. I don't think 8's the right number. Looking at this diagram, it looks like if you went to 6 parking spots, you'd have 8 feet, of which you could do 4 feet of landscaping on each side and create a separation from the neighbor's property rather than just parking right up against the neighbor's property. That's more than 1 per bed with 1 guest spot. I would be willing to do a condition approval. I don't know if you would, Emma, but saying, hey, that as long as we do that with additional landscaping in this format, then it could be staff approvable. We know what we're getting with that additional landscape.
Yeah, I have to agree. It was one of the things I was looking at is I would be more comfortable with 6 parking spaces with the ability to landscape on either side. I also see that there's a shared dumpster there, but I mean, at some future point when this property is sold, that shared dumpster may not be there. There should be at least some type of room to maneuver trash cans in and out of the building. So that's sort of where I'm leaning as well. And I don't care about the chimney in the back. Sorry.
I mean,
No, I think, I think that suggestion's really supportable with the 6 spaces and the landscaping features on both sides.
Is the stairs at the back, I see the existing AC condensing unit. Is that all pavement? So you come down the stairs, I mean, I get there's a sidewalk that goes up to space 2-6, but is that all concrete that's?
Yes.
So I mean, I guess my suggestion would be maybe you do some landscaping up against the back of the house. I think if you're going to do a concrete pad for more of a communal space, maybe, I can't how can I explain this. I would consider some sort of fence or something where people can't cut across. Maybe you do some landscaping there and you create a space that's more of a community, a space for the tenants in the back that's not right up against the house, so that you could do a little bit of landscaping here, have some sort of space.
Yeah.
Put some sort of fence or something where people can't just cut across and tear shit up. Excuse my, pardon my French.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay. So is that something, Steph, that the staff would be happy to review, or if
Yeah.
they?
It would be up to you all if you would be comfortable with me staff approving these conditions.
we could word it where that the back parking area is rearranged so that such that there's landscaping along the house, along the front of the parking and the sides.
Correct.
And that tree in the front.
Yes.
Street, yeah, I suggested a street tree if the city forester says that that's an appropriate location for a street tree. So if they come back and say that they said no, then we would not hold them to doing that.
I don't know if I can say it all, so I'll just second it, but if somebody wants to try it.
Okay. I believe it's motion to approve the application as submitted with the following conditions: that applicant reduce parking from 8 to 6 and applicant rearrange back landscaping area such that there is parking on or there is landscaping on each side of the parking, as well as along the back of the building and in front of the parking, that to be staff approvable. And then we don't have to touch on the chimney because that's as submitted.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be the
Additional tree.
and the additional tree, if supported by the city forester.
Yes, and what about the bicycle rack?
Yes.
Bike rack.
Inclusion.
And and inclusion of a bicycle rack to accommodate at least 2 bicycles.
I think they probably, I was gonna say 4. I mean, as much as kids bike.
I will take the suggestion to accommodate 4 bicycles.
Okay, and then the only other thing I had in here was photo documentation of the garage. Are you amenable to that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna repeat this back to you, make sure I got everything.
Good job.
I guess first, applicant, are you amenable to those things?
Yes.
Okay. So I had a motion by Mr. Samansky for conditional approval with the conditions being the parking be reduced to 6 spaces and then the landscaping be reconfigured so that there's landscaping on either side of the parking as well as at the rear of the house and the front of the parking. That there is a bicycle rack or racks to accommodate 4 bicycles, a street tree if the city forester is cool with it, and photo documentation of the garage.
Yes.
Thanks. All right, so we need a second.
Second.
A second by Ms. Parker. Ms. Gunzelman,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Reeds.
Yes.
Mr. Sublette,
Yes.
Mr. Samansky,
Yes.
and Mr. Mather.
Yes.
And to clarify, these are all staff approvable conditions.
Yes. Thank you.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Talk about staff approved things.
Yes.
Scan it in by tomorrow. Thank you.
Let's see. So the first one, 234 King Avenue, is the new site of the relocated beer stube. And there was a patio there that was damaged by a car, so they're just replacing the patio fencing. So that was one. We had a graphics case that you may recall was pulled off of the September agenda because they made modifications that made it staff approvable, so that's on here. 9th and High is on here as a renewal because you all approved it last year and then they've been working on the drawings and they never actually submitted for their COA, so it expired because they're only good for a year. So that's listed here as a renewal.
Is it the timber frame?
Yes.
I'm so excited for that thing to get built.
I know,
Can't
me
wait.
too.
So that's on here as a renewal. And then the last 4, I realize there's an error on the agenda. They all say maintenance, but they are all some variation of re-roofing. So you can click them open and see them, but the first one is just re-roofing. I think it's an asphalt roof. The second one is re-roofing and gutters just on a porch roof, and then an asphalt roof. And then the last one is at Pavey Square, there's a small section that's EDPM that was leaking, so they just replaced that same section with EDPM. So pretty straightforward this month.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Can I ask one question first? It's not an objection, but so could you repeat the 234 King Avenue,
Yep.
what's involved in that?
That is the new location of the
Beer stube.
beer stube. And it, let's see if I have it here. There was a fenced-in patio in front of the building that was damaged by a car, and so he was replacing that. Let's see if we have it here. In the same location that the fence was before. See if I can.
I don't even need you don't need the
Okay.
extra diagram. I just,
Yes, so it was a patio. It's going to be a patio again. He's just doing new fence, and so it's like brick columns and black aluminum fence.
I simply wasn't clear before, but thank you.
Yeah. Mhm. Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay. The motion by Mr. Reeds. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
There's a second by Mr. Mather. Ms. Gunzelman,
Yes.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
Mr. Reeds,
Yes.
Mr. Sublette,
Yes.
Mr. Samansky,
Yes.
and Mr. Mather.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Do we stand adjourned, Mr. Chair?
Cold jacket.
Do we stand adjourned?
We do.
Okay, thanks.
So they did a great job with the AV and the IT thing.